Black horror from Black screenwriters and directors. You knew we were checking this out. It's a no-brainer. But folks, this is going to be a long one, so strap in because we're ready to jump into our review of the new Shudder series, Horror Noire. What's up, folks? Nigerian Zero. We're back today for a special review, and it's special because we're really excited to talk about this project. And mostly when we do reviews, it's just for one movie. But the fact that this film had 6 shorts in it, we got a lot to talk about. So yes, we're getting into our review of the new film Horror Noire, which is going to be releasing on Shudder October 28th. Now, as I said, it's from Black directors and Black screenwriters. It's 6 stories, 6 shorts. This all totals up to about 2 hours and a half. And they're all totally different. And there's some big names actually attached to some of these films as well, to all of them actually. And very prominent names within the horror community. So, I was excited for this. And I think when I first saw that this was coming out, I had heard something about this being like a podcast of some sort. So I was like, oh, they're going to do like a video podcast or whatever. But no, it's not. It's using the same name because the podcast is an audio platform showcasing the same, Black creators. This is now taking another space for Black creators, being able for them to put together short stories. So yes, again, 6 stories. And I think we're going to start with the first one in order of which they come. And this one is The Lake. Zero, give me your instant thoughts about this one, because this was wild.
All right. Off the bat, I give this particular short, the first one, lots of credit for doing things that are a little bit unconventional.
Bingo.
Not only for Black horror, but horror and just like, film and entertainment in general. And I think that's something that I could say that I was proud of with this one. I was completely uncomfortable the entire time with this one, but I think that was for a reason. I think that they wanted you to feel uncomfortable. Off the bat, you are dealing with themes of predatory behavior, of high-key pedophilia. These are not beginner topics, essentially. And usually in media and even on the news, when we think of predators, we think of pedophilia, we think of men doing these acts onto younger boys and girls, but that's not always the case. We're equal opportunity across the board.
Yeah.
So, beautiful women themselves are also capable of being predators. Just because someone is a woman and also very conventionally attractive does not mean that they are written off as not being able to be a predator. And I think bringing that to light was something very unique, and something very truthful. But still hits that nerve of like, I should not be watching this right now. And that's how I felt. I'm pretty sure I was repeating it to myself on the screening of this first one, but extremely uncomfortable, but still picking at a wedge that isn't usually picked at, which I thought was very interesting. And using that as a mode to tell a story was very risky.
Yeah.
I will say that.
I firmly agree. This was the one because anybody who's been a fan of mine and many of the reviews I've done, I'm very adamant that I don't like short stories because it's always the idea that you leave wanting more, and within film you may never get it. And I think a lot of us watch films to see the complete picture, to see the complete story told. We don't like too big of a cliffhanger without the idea that we know we're going to get something else that's following it. And sometimes you get really good stories, but they just don't get the funding, so it never manifests to anything. And that's a very as a consumer of film, it's a bad feeling because you really, really, really want closure. That's we want closure in everything we do in life, right? Especially in the things we are entertained by. But this was the one I feel of all of the shorts that I was the most intrigued with, that I would love to see how this plays all the way out, because it certainly is risky, top tier risky. And then the foundation of what this story sets up, the possibilities of where this could go, where this short in particular could have came from. I am utmost intrigued, thus resulting into me being the most disappointed, because we just left off in such a shot that I was just like, wait, what? Like, and I'll be clear that, you know, the shot where we left off at is, you know, it's an underwater shot, which I don't think was particularly shot well. But regardless of that, I'm still thinking to myself, like, I don't even know where to even want to think next. I don't know. There's way too many unanswered questions here. That's what I'm not feeling with this. Like, the characters are interesting. The dynamic is interesting. And much like you said, this subject matter here is no stranger to folks. And the fact that they flipped it in an unconventional way, it's like, okay, that's a really risky thing to do, but I bought into it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yes. Now that I spent my money, I'm looking every day waiting for when my Amazon package is going to arrive, and we're not getting it. You know, that's the dilemma here. So, you know, the lake is a good one to start off of the 6, and I just really lobby for this one to happen a full fleshed out story feature, or even, I don't know, even a web series, even just a regular series, something.
Because I do feel like with this one in particular, like, we almost have like 2 separate stories. Because, well, here comes the spoiler warning, everyone, for this short right here. But
go for it.
So we have our protagonist, the woman who is a predator, and later on in the short, you realize that this is not her first offense, that she is a repeat offender of harming young people, of children. So at a certain point, you start to wonder, like, what does the lake actually have to do with her behavior? And I know that we do have that one line from the groundskeeper who's, you know, said swimming in the lake like brings out the worst of you, or something like that. But I feel like the worst was already apparent in this character.
Yeah, absolutely. The water did nothing for her. It could have been her home. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, she's already a bag of rocks to begin with. So,
yeah.
What else does the
water heighten? Nothing.
Yeah. And so I kind of felt like those were 2 separate storylines that were just kind of like happening at the same time. I do think that it was a good idea to make this character how she was. It was easier to see a character that you already don't like being sucked into a situation like this, because it's like, oh, I mean, like, who cares if the lake monster gets her? She's already a predator. So, you know, it was easier to let go in that sense. But it was kind of like,
to hell with her. Yeah.
But still, there was really no crossing of the roads for me.
Yeah.
And then same thing. I mean, there could have been, but this was only a short film.
Yeah.
So back to our original point, we might not ever get that.
Yes. Let's go to the second story now. Brand of Evil. Now, this one was interesting. This was definitely a shift into storytelling here, and that's what I really appreciate this one being by the second short, is because it automatically lets you know that there was going to be no consistency between any of them. They're all, and I think this is important, especially since we're showcasing Black talent, that we don't tell the same story. We don't have to tell the same story. And as much as what I'm saying right now is an overhead, statement about all of them, it's actually a pretty part of the message that's within this film, this short as well too. And I thought there was a lot of good messages in this, with the art and the culture, and how white folks like to perceive Black artists to be. They wanted to all look and feel the same way. You know, give me that struggle, give me that Black, you know, struggle story and whatnot. And this is dialogue coming from out of this as well too. And it's very cringe. And
say that again.
Yeah. And at the same time too, on the other side, then yes, folks like to use this word too. It's very woke, because this film is very conscious about what is around in society for Black artists. Black artists, inspiring artists, struggling artists, established artists, all artists of Black people, no matter what pedigree you are, deals with this. So I truly enjoyed the dialogue in this. I like the little glance of the life of Atlanta and Atlanta artists. I thought there was very key things that was put into this that showcases that. But more or less, the moral of this one had to deal with how money can change you. Will money, can you be bought? Can money ultimately have you to do the things you may not be willing to want to do? So, good message. I'd say semi or potentially good gore going forward. There was a few blood splatter scenes that had signs of this could get really crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that's my take on it. I'll leave some for you on this.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I agree. I like the message here because it's a relatable one, especially if you are an artist or any type of creative trying to make a living off of your art. Yeah, super freaking relatable. I will say that. And I think that it's good to have the dangers of that influence in media, especially in this way. But execution, I don't think it was it for me, dog. I really don't. Like I understand the message. I think it was very clear. The narrative and the point at the end that we're supposed to get, but just the execution from a storytelling standpoint kind of had me with little plot holes. I think for a message that's extremely relatable, I don't think it was very realistic. And that's kind of a stretch to say because with stuff like this, you're not really looking for realism. Because it's horror, it's the fantasy, it like literally could be whatever. Like the previous story, like we're dealing with a spiritual entity. That's not what I mean by like accuracy, I guess. It's more like, you know, how easy did this character fall into this trap? The trap seemed a little shallow, and I think that it would have taken a little more for our character to actually be engulfed in this. But I appreciated it for what it was. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I get the message that they wanted to tell. The execution wasn't there. I don't overly think that. Now, why I say I enjoyed the dialogue because it was funny and it was sort of, I'll say, how do I say, relatable dialogue for the culture dialogue, like things I can pick up on that I understand what they're saying. But it was overly a reach. And as you said, when you had your antagonist who was trying to lure our protagonist, it just didn't come off as believable. And then I think I think, you know, here's the thing, once I felt like the film wanted to tell a very important message, and I felt like it was setting a tone of seriousness, and then it just got away from that, especially in our last moments when we saw the demonic presence, and I'm just like, oh, this doesn't look good at all. Like the acting wasn't good, the response to the situation didn't feel natural. The last, like, let me be very clear, the last few moments of this was literally the best thing I ever saw, and that's all sarcastic. Because it just went way. It was cruising at a good 45 miles per hour. It hit a good 45 miles per hour. It hit it up to 60. Everything was good. And it was supposed to make a left, but it went straight and then went right over the cliff. It did a few tumbles and then it exploded. And you were just like, yo, that's insane. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, there was also some casualties in that. So literally my emotions in watching this, you know.
Just like that last shot with the demonic entity, just like, I mean, I literally have zero experience on a film crew, but like a little spookier lighting, maybe, I don't know.
He looked like a homie that was just in the room. Like it was so wild. It was so wild. I was just like, what?
Yeah, I did really like the boyfriend though. I thought that was like one of the best acting performances
No.
of this anthology. I did take a liking to him. But yeah, all of this.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the third now. Bride Before You. Now, look, okay.
So
I don't
which
know.
one is this again?
Bride Before You is the third one. So let me be clear. Before I go any further, I really have nothing to say about this one. Literally, just straight up. To the point that I almost didn't even know that this one even happened. I have no clue why this one never connected at all. At all. But there was one very big person in this that I had to get a shout out to. My man from Save the Last Dance was in this, and I'll say, holy crap. I knew it. He hasn't aged at all, and that's all I got, folks.
That's it?
That's all I got for this one. Okay, if you want me to give you a little bit of context. Now, look, if you thought the entity in the last one was bad, this one right here was like, hold my beer. This was like, basically, folks, it was like, and I get the message here. Like, let me be very clear about the message that this one is trying to tell. This one is trying to tell about, it's totally a message to Black women. And while I think the message is important, because I can't relate, I only can look from outside into this. I know that there's trying to tell a strong message to Black women. I also feel like it came off almost like a parody of some sort or something, because again, it's like a strong, important, pivotal societal message, and then you throw some type of joke in there, and then I just lose all sense of seriousness about it. And I think that, like, to be honest, this is like the Black version of Charlotte's Web, like the horror story version of it. Because like there's this spider that's like protecting the house, and the spider had I guess mommy issues, never got to meet the mother or something of that sort, which is relatable to the human lady. And they create a bond. So why they created a bond, now the spider protects the house from, I guess, anybody and everyone. Anybody can get it. And then there's this big, the spider claw just comes out of nowhere, comes and gets
like
you.
Like out of a vent, like one finger.
Yeah. and it's like, it's no agony in the kills. It's just straight dead. And I definitely didn't like that. I was like, come on now, for real. So yeah, that's literally all I got. And shout out to homeboy from Save the Last Dance. I had to throw that in.
Was that also the woman from Black Mirror? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. She was great. I liked her. I actually, okay, I want to circle back on something that you said just a second ago. But it's like, with all of these, I feel like, not just this one, but like literally all 6, I'm feeling it. The exposition is great. It opens up world building a little bit. I'm feeling the storytelling. And then it's like they throw a joke in there, which is like putting a stick in like your spokes on your bike. And then from that point on, it's like, I can't tell if this is supposed to be a parody or not.
Yeah.
And it takes away from that original message. And I actually really liked this one going up because, well, one, it's pretty relatable, especially now. We have a lot as a community to improve on when it comes to colorism. And that was the entire theme of this short. So it takes place, this was like a period piece, which I also think doesn't help with the jokiness, because the accents of like the time period kind of didn't work, but that's besides the point. But I did like, nobody wants to see another slave story. We've said that like a bajillion times, but I actually thought that this was a cool way to bring it back to that time period, with telling a story about a light-skinned family, or not a light-skinned family, but the husband is dark-skinned, and he is very professional and is good at whatever it is that he does. Is held highly in the community, and his wife is light-skinned. And now she is running into this issue with her child, and, how dark will my child come out? And, of course, during this time period, light skin is favored. And also up in today, light skin is favored. You have to just admit that. And taking this severity of skin color into the hands of like hoodoo voodoo magic. And, you know, this could potentially be the run-in of my baby's life if my baby comes out too dark. But the metaphor at the end of, so basically, spoiler warning, what happens in this this film is this woman is basically gives birth to twins. The son is light-skinned and very easily white passing. So as she prayed for, as she went to this hoodoo voodoo woman to make sure of it, that my baby will come out light, which then leads her to neglect her daughter, who has dark skin, and then she turns into this spider somehow, which is like, dog, really? And yeah, a little bit unbelievable, but I really appreciated the message here, because we don't get a lot of these stories about colorism. It's usually just about Black folks, period. And this is the first time that I've really seen in a horror internal issues in the Black community, because colorism like runs rampant. And as somebody who benefits from light skin privilege, I think that it's very important to talk about this, because if you don't talk about it, then it just doesn't exist. And even in a fictional standpoint, I mean, this is actually not what's happening to the dark skinned people of our community. They're not becoming spiders, but it's, you know, it's a metaphor. But I think it was a little too jokey to hold on to that message. But until that point, I was rocking with it. I think it was cool that we got to see a period piece about Black folks that, you know, just illustrated the different kinds of lives that people had because of colorism and what that could do to a family. I liked it, and I didn't like the execution.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it on that one, because I think for me, it just was just parts that I just was having a hard time connecting with, and I think that all of these thus far have been trying to tell. Well, all of them, I think we can safely say, are trying to tell an important message. It's just the idea of if they fully execute with it. So
that stick in the wheel, man.
Just,
I can't recover from this.
Yeah. What is the next one? Fugue State. Okay.
Fugue State.
I mean, you know what this one is. First of all, shout out to my babe, Rachel True. It is so good to see Rachel. Yeah, Rachel True, and Malcolm Barrett is in this one, and this one is interesting. This one, star power, should I say, is the biggest reason why it's easy to appreciate this one the most. Rachel is the two of them are playing husband and wife, character husband and wife, and Malcolm's character is very much his author. He studies cults, and to me it's interesting because like he goes out and does his homework on the church, religions, and basically deems them to be cults and whatnot, which is an interesting take because some people feel that way. So, but I don't think I've ever seen a story where somebody's like, yeah, I feel that way, I'm gonna go execute on this, you know. So he does that, and she investigates crime. So they're both always just at home looking up something to try to investigate what's going on here.
Sleuths, if you will.
Yes. But yeah, his investigation got him exactly what he wanted. Seek and you will find here. And things get unhinged quickly on this one. I got to say, because I definitely want to give you some space on this one. This is the one that I'm actually cool with this being just this story. I don't think I need anything more from it. As much as I appreciate both of them and their respect and efforts to the horror community here, I think I'm very happy and satisfied with this short. I think it told a good, interesting story, gave us a little fulfilling end as we seem to see what's going to happen next. And I think Rachel's dialogue, mannerisms, all of that just gave me so much life, especially when she was in the church in the one scene and she had her glasses on. She's listening to the preacher spit out nonsense. Oh, yeah. And she's just like, what?
First she was like, okay, I can get down with this. And then it took a turn. And even though she had her glasses on, you could tell.
Yes,
like,
indeed.
What in the world did I even into?
But yeah, this one was cool.
I like this one too. I thought that, well, to start, I personally I like to watch cult documentaries. I do watch a handful of them. So whenever I see like a fictional version of a cult brought to television, I like to compare the two.
Yeah.
And something that I noticed with this short is I was really pleased by the manic nature of the husband once he like, I mean, all right, so when you join a cult, you are essentially like brainwashed, right? But this dude was like literally brainwashed, like with the glowing eyes, and there was some supernatural element here to signify that he had been brainwashed. So instead of slowly being brainwashed over like a month, which is usually what happens, it was just like instant. He walks in the church and then just boom, like he's a follower. But still, the way that he would talk about the church, would react to what his wife is saying about members of the church seemed pretty like accurate to me. Like there was one moment that I really liked when she's talking to him and she's trying to get him like out of his head fog because he's like not who he usually is at all.
Yeah.
And for a split second, she like breaks through and gets to him, and he's capable of like listening for once, like, okay, maybe I should go get help because my wife, she cares, and blah blah blah, this, that, and the third. But the second she calls the rest of the church members crazy, it's a wrap, and he snaps back immediately into his cult member mentality. And I'm like, yo, that's true.
Yes, it is.
If I learned anything from Leah Remini and her show on Scientology, I know that that's a fact. You have to remove the member from the craziness that is a cult. You can't use that type of language because that's when these people get defensive. And I was like, wow, there definitely some sleuths here behind whoever wrote this one. But I did like this one a lot. But I can't lie, I think the star power was really what got me excited for this one.
Yeah.
I love the two of them. And I think their performances were great as well. I had no complaints with this one like I did the others.
I'm pretty sure too. If Tony Todd was your preacher, you might be also invested in this.
Okay, I changed my mind. That was my one gripe. I was like, man, really? They had to make him the kooky preacher, and that's like it, dog. Like, really, just a kooky preacher? Like, I would expect like a little more power, and he was corny too. I mean, I love that man. Trust me, I do. Yeah, I think we all do. But I was like, really, dog? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that this one had the biggest star power. So you expected this even in a limited time. I think 25 minutes. The day we're going to bring the best out of it, and they did. I like, to be honest, I would love this to be a full feature length film, but I'm super satisfied where it's at. It's always just good to see the two of them, the three of them, honestly, in whatever roles that they are, even if you're being like the wonky pastor. Now, the next one is Daddy. This stars my man, Luke James, who's from The Chi. He's from Star. He's an artist. And he is a dad. And he is basically one of the dads that he's still figuring it out, but he's very confident that he knows what he's doing. He meets this guy in the elevator who gives him subliminal messages, and while it may come off as just random wisdom, it does seem to be a little bit suspicious and creepy. There's some other things that kind of goes about that lures him for him to be a suspicious character, or just that random old guy down the hallway, whatever it may be. But it ignites a flame under his butt, where he says that if I'm going to be a good dad, I'm going to make sure that I am the best dad. And that where he tends to really goes overboard about everything. And this comes down to the protection of his son, and just making sure that he does everything. And it comes off good, but there's a lesson here because in one of the conversations between him and the guy in the elevator, he basically told him, oh no, I'm sorry, this is another conversation that I had later, but he basically said he would die or do anything to protect his son. The kid has the ability to see beings. I think it's not determined if it's actually a being, a human being, or some type of spiritual
I
demonic
don't think
presence,
we
whatever it
ever
may.
find out. I
Yes,
don't
which
think
is
we do.
this is good. This is how you do it short, because you get
Yeah.
you give us a complete foundation of a story, and you leave us that one big mystery of what we don't find out, but it's not detrimental to us being satisfied from what we know. But the guy in the elevator, the guy down the hall, he's the same person. He basically tells him that, you know, sometimes the biggest threat to our families and our kids are within. And he definitely wasn't taking that type of criticism. He was like, "You're not talking about me, and you damn sure not talking about my wife." But is he? Is there truth to this? And that's really what I got from this film. So overall, I thought the little kid was so adorable.
Yeah.
Future star. And I think if he can handle a role like this, I'm very confident that we'll be seeing this young man mature.
Yeah. If Disney doesn't snatch up this little kid, they will be so upset in the future, because he is really something.
Yeah.
He's Disney material, that's for sure.
Absolutely. But yeah, I was digging this one. This one was cool.
Yeah, I did like this one. I did like our protagonist, especially like towards the end when we figure out what the spiritual entity or not spiritual entity, human entity, whatever the hell. I think he did a really good job of like flipping the switch. And you know, it used to remind, I'm going to snap you for a second, but my dad used to do this thing when I was like bad. He would like, my dad's name is Pete, right? And so when I was bad, like Pete would leave and then Pedro would come, and he was like the mean dad. So like, you don't want me to come, call Pedro. And it was like, you know, he would just turn around real quick and then have a different face on. And it was like the most terrifying thing. And so when our main character does that, it kind of like sent me back for a second. I was like, oh man, no. But it's true. I mean, I guess it was maybe like a kind of symbolic thing for the scary and out of hand side of parenting that could sometimes come up.
Yep.
And you know, being an overprotective parent is like a real thing, and it has its dangers that come with it too. Like I had friends in like elementary school that weren't allowed to have sleepovers, and the second they get to college, they just go crazy.
Yep.
You know,
big facts. Yeah, I mean, look, these stories come from places, not. I mean, and yes, there's folks involved in the writing and directing of this that are authors, but yeah, these are coming from personal experiences here. Now, this ain't take a lot of brain power for people to say like, "Oh, I got a story to tell."
At the heartstrings, because parenting is something that is an experience that a lot of people share, and a fear that a lot of people share. I think this one was executed pretty well. There was a little bit of cheese in there, of course, but I enjoyed this one, and I actually enjoyed the ending too. Yeah, because it wasn't quite a twist, but it was, you know, it was enough of a cliffhanger for me that you don't really the story is like finished. You don't need to know what happens afterwards in order to get the message. And it was enough to leave you thinking. I don't know. I was feeling this one.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. The kid, you know, as we know, most kids are able to see beings and they draw things and whatnot. And this is the first time of all of the films where the transitions between the films wasn't just like film, title screen, film, title screen. A scene from the next film actually came before the title scene, which kind of made these feel connected, because when you saw the kid drawing, the guy had like a red hand, it looks like, or something. And I kept thinking like, all right, this is going to draw us to whoever we should be suspicious of and whatever. So that's the end of that story. But then we go to the next story, the final story, and that's Sundown. And we see LaValle Crawford, who is a comedian. My man has lost some weight, but he didn't lose them jokes. That's all I got to say. But we see him, he's holding a cardinal in his hand, and he snaps the cardinal neck. Red cardinal in his hand. And you think, oh, that's who they're talking about. Instead, it's actually part of the next story. So I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it definitely made me like, I kept trying to find a connection between the two of them, which I don't think there is, but the transition between the two is worth noting. So for you folks to know that whenever you see LaValle Crawford character running, that's the new story. But yeah, the next and final story is Sundown, which is in a sundown town. Which as soon as I saw the name, I already knew where this was going.
Yeah,
this wasn't even a question.
Well, I thought that I knew.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yes,
you're right.
But I didn't.
This one easily had my favorite dialogue of everything.
Same.
So entirely funny. So natural. And when I say natural, the dialogue is absolutely natural. Some of the progressions in the film are definitely not natural, but by all means, the dialogue, the responses, we gotta go. I'm going to say this a billion times. We gotta go. I'm not falling for any of this.
Get me out of here.
Yeah. But yeah, you have these two folks who are two black folks who are going door to door to give out flyers and try to get signatures for their campaign or win people over for a local election. There are only two black people in this very random West Virginia looking town. LaValle Crawford's the third black person that they eventually find out on, but they already knew this wasn't a place for them to be, and it surely proved them that this strange black town that had signage that wasn't so accepting of black people. Yeah, time for us to go. So other than that, I'm not gonna really I'm gonna let you go into what the real big twist here or the biggest revelation here. But all I gotta say is I'll speak about LaValle Crawford real quick. Again, with him losing weight, with him being a comedian, somebody I've seen before, absolutely hilarious. I knew he was going to act a fool. If you are a fan of his, you're getting all of the funny facial gestures, you're getting the jokes, you're getting the clapbacks, you're getting all of that with him. He's good, man. He's good. He's good at what he does, and I enjoyed his character here.
Yeah, he was, I would say, like the least tropey version of that comedic relief Negro we're ever gonna get. like once, no bull. I was like, this needed to happen, and I will like literally never say that again. But this is the one time that I will say it is absolutely acceptable. But so it's the Sundown. You know what? This one was very clever, and especially after Lovecraft Country. The first episode of Lovecraft Country was called Sundown, and it takes place outside of a sundown town, and it's really freaking scary, that episode. And so when I saw the title card and saw this last short is called Sundown, I was like, oh god, we're gonna get a mob, a chase scene, something of that nature. But I was actually very pleasantly surprised, and the amount of humor in this episode really made it worth it. Short really made the whole thing worth it. And I think this is out of all of the shorts, this is like the most appropriate level of cheese. And the wheel and the spoke, it's not a painful one. It works with the rest, because up to a certain point it feels like a horror film with comedy included in order to lessen the blow. And then later on, you actually find out that this whole thing is horror comedy. The whole damn thing is horror comedy. So it's okay to laugh. But basically, here comes a spoiler warning. Warning.
It is the night of the Moonlight Festival. Throw that in there. Yeah.
Yes. So our characters, the couple, they find out that the town that they have been, I guess, campaigning around, door to door knocking, is a sundown town, and in the post office, I believe, or the police station, one of those two, there's a big plaque on the wall, and it says like whites only inside city limits after dark, which means it's a sundown town, which is like huge freaking red flag.
Yeah,
several red
Yes.
flags.
All the Instagram red flags, like all
Yes,
50
all
of
of them. Yes, it's
them.
like 8 rows of them in a row. And so we get this like really comedic back and forth between the campaign. Oh, and the campaign is for a black woman who's running for Congress or something like that, just to make matters worse.
Yep.
And so this, for the meat of this short, we have just this back and forth dialogue with the townspeople versus our political campaign group about no, it's a different time now. I mean, I swear we took that one down. I mean, as soon as I came into office, I said take them all down. I think it's like the sheriff or somebody who's saying this, and you want to believe him, but you don't believe him at all, and until you realize that this town is full of vampires.
Yeah.
And the one black folk in this town, who is the culprit of snatching birds from that beginning scene. He's the one black man in the entire city limits of the town, and he's the one who put the plaque up there. He put it back on the wall to make sure that
you get the hell out of there.
that no black folks will stay in this town after sundown because there are vampires.
Yeah.
Which is a glorious turning of the tables, in my opinion. And honestly, I could have been okay with this being a feature length. I think that there's material there. Like it was really funny, and I would just like to see it extended. And the kicker at the end was just like everything, especially because as black folk and especially coming off of the heels of Lovecraft Country, and now people are learning, not just black people, all types of people are learning about sundown towns now in 2021. You kind of brace yourself when you see that title page, and it was a very pleasant surprise. And I personally am just a fan of horror comedy, and so this hit like all the stakes for me. It was the best.
Look at that pun. Hit all the stakes.
Yes.
I agree. And I it's funny that they said the vampires love dark meat. It is special to them. They're gonna make sure they treat it extra nice. I thought that was funny. Yeah, this one I laughed a lot. Even with some of the bad effects, some of the bad human responses that I really hate. I really enjoyed this one. This one reeks Shudder's DNA. This is the one that they or whomever invest in full feature-length film. This has some legs under it. So, but overall, of all of them, I love the creativity. They were fun. They were satirical. And I appreciate it. All of them had issues, especially if you're looking from a critic standpoint. But I enjoyed it, and I thought for 2.5 hours, which I hate films over an hour and a half, and although there were multiple stories, and although I don't like shorts, I watched through this entire thing, and I was like, "Yo, I can't wait to talk about it. This was fun. This was fun." And I definitely recommend that you folks check this one out and let us know your thoughts.
I don't believe it's time wasted at all.
Oh, bingo. Yes, great word. You have anything else you want to add before we let people get to it?
No, I just encourage that everyone watch on their own time, form their own opinions. And yeah. I've been looking forward for this for a long time. I still have the screenshot in my phone. I screenshotted the press release when they just announced that this was going to be a thing. So we've been waiting a minute for this. So
by all means, folks. Like they're gonna have flaws, but I think at the end of the day, you will be entertained. And I would love if Shudder made this like an annual thing. I don't know what would it take, but like give me yearly horror noir from black creators and let them tell 5 shorts. There's a ton of talented black creators, artists, talent, actors, all that would love to do this. And when you get legends like Tony Todd and Rachel True, who's like, I'll sign on for it.
You better run with that.
Bingo. But yeah, folks, check it out. Jump in the comments as always and let us know your thoughts about this one. Which one was your favorite of the short? Which one would you like to see a feature length? Which one didn't you like? And for whatever reasons that you didn't. Overall, we just want to know your thoughts about all of them. But yeah, we'll be back. It is October, so we got more reviews to do. So folks, we'll be back for more reviews very soon. Thank you for tuning in, folks.
Big gold bell,